The records are now open. All right, just give me a moment to check in. Okay. Okay. So I'm seeing origination was Lyra. Okay. But you did not stay in Lyra. Okay, nobody did because it was destroyed. But then I'm seeing, yeah, you had kind of an interesting star journey. You kind of bounced around a little bit. I think you and your group were captured and brought to Orion. Okay. So, so I'm kind of seeing like some struggles, okay, with your journey, okay. So, just to kind of give you some background information about Lyra, why it's so important, okay. And Holly might have told you about her reading, but Lyra is where everything began in this particular galaxy. Okay, so the whole human drama started from Lyra. Okay, so people talk about Adam and Eve, and they think the human race was created here on Earth. No, it wasn't. I mean, we kind of all know that's not really true. We're part of a genetic mix of quite a few different star races here on Earth. Okay, so but Lyra and the biggest star in Lyra, which is called Vega, is pretty much known as the home of human consciousness. So a lot of the humanoid races that are all kind of evolved from Lyra. Okay. So Lyra is actually a small constellation. It's fairly close to Galactic Center. So Galactic Center is actually located between Scorpio and Sagittarius. And that's where kind of the galactic oversouls first developed, So when we started having this separation of our souls from Source, initially we were part of an oversoul, and then our oversoul ended up creating kind of like soul families that we all were connected to, that were connected to certain star systems. Okay, so you were part of initially of the Lyra Vega group. Okay, so pretty much what happened, I think, was you and your family group incarnated. It was not one of the major planets in Lyra. It was actually, I think, one of the smaller planets. Your group kind of has an elemental quality to it. It's kind of interesting. Initially, you were kind of a mix of elemental and maybe some human genetics. Okay. So when I look at you, you actually look Andromedan. When I look at you, I think she looks Andromedan, but I never, people can look a lot of different ways, and I never try to just base it off of people's looks, because I have some Syrians who are blonde. I mean, who are, most Syrians are dark, okay, but I get some Syrian starseeds who are blonde, okay, and then sorry, I'm getting a little bit of an echo. Let me see if I can turn down the volume a little bit. Then I get some, some Pleiadians who have dark skin, dark hair. So you can never make assumptions based on people's genetics. Okay. I think basically your genetics came from Lyra. Okay. So because even the Andromedan genetics came from Lyra. Okay. So that's. Yeah, so it's just, I think before the wars started, okay, so everything got bad when the Draconians attacked Lyra, okay, so before that it was picture perfect, beautiful paradise place. I'm trying to see which planet you were on. I think it might have been Bila. 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 Okay, so Bila. It was one of the planets that were destroyed. So I'm just trying to see what happened to you before. So I think basically what happened is you were a caretaker of plants and animals, okay? And so, you know, you lived on this paradise planet. I think some of you have a genetic connection with elemental beings who did the same thing. So you were taking care of the flowers and the plants and the trees and the animals that were on this planet. And you were just, you know, kind of maintaining them. You weren't creating them, but you were just maintaining them, making sure that, you know, they got what they needed. Okay. Lyran people felt very connected to their planets. Quite a few Lyran people were farmers and in agriculture because they felt this deep connection with their planets. Others of them, like you, were kind of like gardeners, you know, maintenance people, you know, just kind of maintaining, you know, the environment. So, you know, you weren't necessarily growing plants, you were just making sure what was there was maintained. So that's what you did, okay? You didn't really get into any sort of healing yet. It wasn't really needed, you know. I mean, there was no need to heal anything because it was, you know, paradise, you know. So you lived this very happy, idyllic existence in Bila, okay? I think the Draconians attacked Avalon and Avion first, okay? They didn't attack Bila until later, okay? Because it was one of the smaller planets. They weren't as interested in it at first. But then I think they got kind of greedy. Okay, they were just like, oh, you know, or we're you know, stripping these planets of resources. Let's go hit the other ones too. You know, so they just want to wipe out all the life that was on these planets so they can have access to the resources. That was basically their whole modus operandi. So you and your family group, I think, did escape the wars. Okay, so but I think you did not get evacuated by a Lyran ship. The Lyran ships had already left. Your group was discovered by a Vega ship. So Vega people were blue-skinned humans, okay, that lived in the planets around Vega. Okay, so kind of a different human group than your group. Okay, so your group was more white Caucasian Lyran. Okay, the blue-skinned Vega people were more blue. They had blue skin. They looked like Hindu gods. You know, they looked. They eventually evolved to have brown skin. So a lot of your brown skin people have genetics that hailed from Vega. Okay, but at the time it was because they were higher dimensional. The skin tone was blue. So I think they were looking for survivors in some of the the Lyran planets that were being attacked because they were service to others focused. You know, they weren't going to leave any survivors behind. The Lyran ships were not quite as technologically advanced as the Vega ships, so they took as many people as they could and they just left because they didn't have weaponry. Okay, so they couldn't stay behind and fight off Draconians. The Vega ships did have weapons, so they were able to defend themselves as they went back to these planets and trying to find survivors. And they found, your family group. It was just a small group of you, maybe 10 people, that survived, and offered you the opportunity to get off the planet, which was very difficult because none of you wanted to leave. Okay, none of you wanted to leave. That was your home. They were basically saying you need to leave because they're going to destroy you. So you had to make a hard decision. You're like, you know what? We don't have any choice. We're going to have to leave. So that was very traumatic. Okay. If I had to take a guess, okay, and this is just observations I've made, through doing a lot of these readings, a lot of Lyran survivors, even today, have trauma signatures in their genetics that have created certain autoimmune conditions, okay? And I see a lot of them suffer from fibromyalgia, other autoimmune problems like Lyme disease, all kinds of stuff, okay? I would say your MS falls in that category, okay? So I think that whenever you are going under a lot of stress, the old trauma from Lyra gets activated and it creates a disease state in your body, okay?
That sounds very accurate.
Yeah. So I see it a lot with I see a lot of Lyran survivors with fibromyalgia. That's like a big one I see a lot. Chronic fatigue syndrome. I suffered from chronic fatigue syndrome for a while, but with MS, I don't think there's any recovery. I think you can manage it, but I don't think there's any cure for it. So not yet. Yeah, not yet. Hopefully in the near future. So. And I think medicine's advancing all the time, so they might come up with a cure for it, but hopefully they find a cure for cancer and other things too. But it's got to come. Yeah. So your group gratefully escaped with these Vega individuals. Now the Vega race was very different from the Lyran race. Okay, even though they were human. They didn't interact much with the Lyrans. It was very rare to see, Vega people interacting with Lyrans, even though they were in the same constellation, because they just had two separate cultures. There was no animosity. There was no conflict. It was just, they were doing their thing, and the Lyrans were doing their thing, and there was just never this. I think sometimes they might have met during maybe big council meetings. I don't know, but for the most part, there was not much intermixing. Okay, now that changed. Okay, that changed later on. Now this Vega ship was pursued by Draconian ships. Okay, it was a given. So that's why you guys wandered a lot. You wandered throughout. Oh my gosh, so many different constellation stars trying to hide out. Didn't know where you were going. At some point, okay, and this is kind of interesting. So you were probably in Cygnus, which is the Swan constellation next door to Lyra. Probably Hercules, probably Vulsepera, which is the Fox constellation. So you guys were just trying to hide out wherever you could. Resources were starting to get scarce. So at some point, I think the ship was supposed to go to Sirius, but you guys got circumvented and ended up going to Orion. Okay, and I think, yeah. Yeah, so I think it was maybe because now if you look at Sirius and you see that if you look at 3 belt stars of Orion, You know, see the 3 belt stars? Here's Sirius right here. They're like real close to each other.
Yep.
You know, so you probably know that from, you know, your own stargazing, but, you know, so I think somehow you were supposed to go to Sirius, but something happened. I think it was maybe attacks from Draconians, who knows, but you ended up having to go here, so you went to the belt stars. Okay.
Interesting.
So I think when you were a teenager and you were looking at the belt stars in the sky, there was something that triggered. There was like a memory that triggered. Okay.
It was something really powerful came over me in that moment.
Yeah. And now Orion also has outlier stars. You know, it's a huge constellation. The belt stars were kind of like the good zone, you know, so that's where most of the resistance fighters, the humanoids that wanted peace and unity, were all in the belt stars. Okay. The outlier stars of Orion was all what I call the Draconian Empire. You know, the reptilian outposts. You know, like Rigel and Bellatrix and Betelgeuse. You know, were all these reptilian outposts. So there was constant conflict between the belt stars and these outlier stars in the Orion system. Okay, so this was a lot of conflict and a lot of duality consciousness in the Orion system. Okay. Now for Orion star seeds, I think this makes you guys uniquely strong individuals. Okay. I have a lot of respect for Orion starseeds, honestly. I'm not from Orion, but I have a lot of respect because you guys had to utilize a lot of resourcefulness, a lot of humor, a lot of optimism in order to sometimes survive in the Orion system. Okay.
It makes a lot of sense as to why I'm like the way I am now.
Oh,
makes a
yeah.
lot of sense.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'll send you a recording I did. I did a little podcast. I used to have a radio show a few years ago, and it only lasted a year, but it was fun. You know, I got to do a few little shows. I did a podcast on Orion. I think I'll send you that. It'll be kind of interesting to hear about. And it talks about Orion star seeds and your guys' the qualities that you guys have. Extremely resourceful. Okay, big time troubleshooters, very creative people, because resources on Orion were a lot of times very scarce. So it wasn't like you could just easily manifest like you could, say, you know, when you were in Lyra. You know, you could easily manifest things. In Orion, it was much more difficult. So you guys had to repurpose things all the time, or fix things. Okay, so a lot of Orion star seeds are either really good mechanics, or they're good at engineering and technology, or they're very creative. I mean, they love to repurpose things, make junk beautiful. I mean, they're the masters at it. Okay.
But the very creative side to it,
Yeah. So
when I got that, it kicked me into the path of where my heart was with acting.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't understand the acting until I got MS. I didn't know why I wanted to,
Mm-hmm.
but MS made that's what came of it.
Mm-hmm.
It pushed me in direction.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll tell you why I think you like acting. Okay.
It's true, because I feel like I've been an actress a million times.
Yeah, no, you were probably a spy for the Black League. Okay, you had to act all the time. So.
Oh, there you go.
So if you were a spy, you had to pretend to be people that you weren't. You were kind of like an agent. Like a secret agent. Trying to, put on a disguise and pretend to be something that you weren't in order to get information. So.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's what I think you were doing. I mean, because you were on the Belt Stars. You were in, Mintonka and Analam and Analtac. Those were the.
Well, while you're saying this, I've got the goosebumps I get when I feel something's accurate.
Mm-hmm.
I get these crazy goosebumps that come home and pulsate all over me. And while you're talking, I'm having that. So.
Oh, very cool. Okay. So yeah, I think you looked human. Okay, when you were in Orion, I always like to compare Orion to Star Wars. Star Wars is basically the story of the Orion Wars.
Interesting.
Yeah. So when I watched I think just a couple of nights ago I watched the newest Star Wars, supposedly the last episode, or so they say. But I was watching that and I was like, damn, that's Orion. I mean, especially when they show the scenes where they're in the cantina and there's where they're in the city and there's all these crazy different beings. That's what Orion was like. I mean, it was so diverse because it was such a huge star system. It was so diverse. I mean, there wasn't just refugees there from Lyra and Vega. There was refugees that ended up there from Draco, from Zeta, Reticuli. So.
That's why I've got such a strong connection to people all the time.
Oh yeah, no. You're used to diversity. I mean, it's like.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with anyone ever.
Mm-hmm.
I just know how to speak to every single human, no matter who they are, where they come from. I can be solidly connected to them.
Yeah, because when you were on Orion, you were you were friends with reptilians, you were friends with gray aliens. Amphibian beings. So when I watch, some of those, Star Wars movies where they show the cantina and there's all these crazy beings hanging out along with humans, that's how it was like there. So for you, diversity is no big deal. I mean, it's like, you had to get used to coexisting with a lot of different types of beings in the Orion system. Okay, so now you had an interesting look because most Orion people were darker skinned. Okay, there were a few that did have light skin, but because most of them came from Vega, they looked more like big, burly, African Americans. They were bigger and they had more of the non-Caucasian features, okay, but there was a few Orion people like yourself that had mostly Lyran genetics that either looked Caucasian or they looked more Asian, okay, so they had more of that look, okay, so there was actually quite a bit of diversity as far as human types on Orion as well, okay. But I think you had such a non-Orion look that you were able to, I think it was almost like you were able to pretend to be a lot of different things, okay? So that made you a very effective spy for the Black League, okay? Now, who was the Black League, okay? Actually, they were the good guys, even though they're the Black League. Okay, yeah. So they were the Resistance, fighters. So you when you watch Star Wars, you see the Resistance fighters. That's so that's what they called them, was the Black League. So they were constantly fighting against the Empire. Okay. So because you lived in the Belt Stars, it was a natural for you to be involved with the Black League. And I think sometimes you would pretend to be a lot of different things. And you would go to some of the most bizarre places. I mean, like they would sometimes send you to Rigel or Bellatrix to gather intelligence. And you would just pretend to be like a cabaret singer. I don't know. I mean, that's
yeah.
you're just pretending to be some innocent person in the meantime, your ears are just like, ooh, I'm taking notes. They're talking about some, interesting stuff. And then you would go back, to where you came from. Or sometimes you would just pretend to be, I don't know, a lot of different things, like a tradesperson from, I don't know, Procyon, or I don't know. It was just like.
That does explain the whole acting thing.
Yeah, you did that a lot. You did that a lot. It was just like, and sometimes you would just come up with the craziest disguises. And, I think your Black Resistance, Black League Resistance fighter colleagues would kind of laugh at some of the stuff you'd come up with because you were so creative. And they would be like, oh, I wonder what she's going to concoct next, in order to get. But you were very, very effective. I think there was times you did get caught. Okay. That was a given with, because your line of work was very dangerous. But I think they would throw you in one of the Rigel, prisons, but then somehow you always managed to get out of them. So I don't know, you must have been a good escape artist, because I don't see where you've spent any extended amount of time in these prisons. It was like almost like you could figure out, and it was almost like more of an energetic thing, like you could figure out how to slip through, the bars. I don't know, but it was really interesting. So you were probably one of the more effective agents that they had, and it was just, what you did. I think after a while, you kind of got tired of the conflict. Okay. You've been doing this lifetime after lifetime after lifetime, and you kind of felt like, what, I really want to do what I can to try to unify Orion, try to bring Orion to unity consciousness instead of all this constant conflict. So you decided to start incarnating in Mintanka. Okay, so Mintanka is the star that's kind of towards the right if you were to look at the belt stars. It's the smallest one that kind of lifts up higher than the other two. But so I think you joined the Galactic Federation in order to work on a bigger mission to unify the entire Orion system instead of having all these conflicts. Okay, so there's a bit of a leadership quality about you. There's also qualities about you that is a mediator, that I think you know how to reach out to people, you know how to talk to them, you know how to to see what it is that they're concerned about, so that you can try to meet their needs. Okay. Yeah. So I think that's another quality that you have is, I think you're very good at working with people. Okay. So this was around the time when Mintanka and there was like this intergalactic highway that was created between Mintanka, the Orion Nebula, and Arcturus. So what they were trying to do is raise the vibration of Orion through this intergalactic highway. Yeah, so now I don't know why I'm seeing this, but I think your husband was around. I think he was around during the lifetimes when you were doing the agent work, and even around this lifetime. So I don't know if he's Lyran or if he's Orion or what he is, but we'll check him a little later, okay? But I think you and he, and sometimes your relationship with him was not positive. Okay, so sometimes it was like he was working for the dark and you were working for the light.
Yeah, right.
And sometimes you would see each other, you would have this recognition, but he was working for the other side. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you couldn't really become friends with him, you know. But it was like you two were always kind of aware of each other, you know, like you know, I don't know. I think there was even a time where it was one of the times you got captured. You befriended him. You were talking to him, and you tricked him. So you tricked him to give you, I think, the code or something to get out of the jail, and so you left his butt behind. Okay, you were just like, you know what, I'm out of here. Thank you for the code. I'm out of here. You know, so I think there's times where you tricked him. I mean, you were, and I think sometimes he holds resentment towards you because you're more quick-witted than he is. Okay.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Where I think there's kind of like a deep subconscious thing with him. Like, is she gonna trick me again, or so? I don't even know why the records are showing me this, but it's I don't know. Sometimes they just kind of direct me to something, and I'm like, okay, there must be a purpose to this, but they say that you did trick them a few times, you know, in your interactions with each other, and sometimes you would be on the same side in your life, and you would be working together. I am getting kind of a twin flame relationship with you and him, where I think you two come together in order to activate each other, and but I think his path, I think what happened was, I think initially you two were together in Lyra, okay? You escaped together, you know, during the wars, but then when he got to Orion, I think something happened, and I don't know if he got killed or something happened, but he started working for the dark. It was like he got lost at that point.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So I think some of the stuff he's dealing with, some of the mental health stuff, is in relation to maybe some past life guilt, you know, around, you know, some of the stuff that he was doing. But no, I think I think you and your husband probably have a contract in this life to try to resolve some past karmic issues with each other. Okay.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I think he's carried this resentment, and I don't know why the guides keep telling me resentment. They keep telling me that word, but he just doesn't. It's like almost like you two need to forgive each other. Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's actually what it feels like, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you'll stay together in this life. I don't know where you're at with your marriage, but I think whatever happens is going to be kind of the closure of this, you know, long-standing karmic loop you guys keep, you know, going around and around and around in. Okay, so so I think this is the accumulation of this. Now, will you two, you know, come together, you know, in a future life? Probably, because you're, you know, if you're twin flames, you know, that's usually the case, right? But I'm not sure if you guys will be able to get to the point, because I think a lot of it depends on him too. You know what I'm saying? So, so he may choose to work through his issues and work with you to improve the relationship, and it'll be like, okay, we got past this huge, this huge conflict, and now things are better. You know, now we can move forward. Or he may decide that, you know what, I don't want to do all this inner work. You know, this is too much, and, you know, exit out of the contract. Okay. Now, even if he does exit out of the contract, it's only temporary. Okay. Yeah, it's only temporary, because eventually you guys will have to resolve whatever it is that, you know, you have to work out with each other. And I think it's because you've been on opposite sides. It's like he chose to have a very different, you know, past lives than you did. Okay.
Yeah.
So So I think he's also Lyran. He was, I think, your partner initially when you guys escaped Lyra, and then you both went, ended up in Orion, but for some reason, and I don't know what exactly happened, but I think he got killed, and he had a lot of anger and resentment and turned to the dark. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So it kind of reminds me of the conflictual relationship in Star Wars that Rey had with Kylo Ren. I don't know if you watch Star Wars.
In the recent ones.
Yeah, the recent ones. Yeah, the recent.
Yeah, I haven't seen those ones, but I have seen the others.
yeah. If you watch the recent ones, the last three, there's this character named Rey. Okay, and she's actually the daughter of the Dark Commander, but she ends up becoming a Jedi. Okay, but so she's working for the Light, and then she has this kind of karmic relationship with the son of Princess Leia, who ended up turning to the dark.
Right.
But they love each other, but they have this conflict. Okay, so but they end up resolving it in the end. But he ends up giving his life to her in order for her to continue living, which is kind of it. I don't want to tell any more of the story, but I don't want to give it away. But you might want to watch those movies because there's something about them that reminds me of kind of the relationship you have with your husband. Yeah, it's kind of like.
You're right. There is a lot of conflict. You're right. And it's not normal. It's not really normal human conflict. That's the thing. It's deeper than that. There's just something there that we just cannot get past or get by, or there's just something that happens that he's trying. He's really working through it at the moment, but it's just as hard for him, and it's hard on my heart, and it's hard for him to work through.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, if I had to make a recommendation, watch those last three movies, and especially the ones that have Rey, the character in them. Her name is Rey. I think though there's qualities about her that reminds me of you. I don't know. Yeah, it's just, but it's interesting because she was the daughter of the dark, but she ends up, becoming a Jedi and working for the light. But yeah, she. But anyway, I think you and your husband. Right now it's kind of hard to say how things are going to work out because a lot of it depends on him because he's a free will being. He can make decisions that might not align with yours. And but I do think eventually you guys will work it out, but I don't know if it's going to be this lifetime. If I had to take a guess, because I think, from what I'm seeing in the records, okay, this is just I'm kind of tuning into your husband's energy. I think he wants resolution as much as you do.
Yeah.
It's just that there's some past demons. There's some past demons or some past resentments or anger issues that are preventing him from really connecting with his shadow self. Okay. So if he can do the shadow work, and that might be a recommendation you might want to make to him, like, maybe you might want to do some shadow work around this. So if he can do the shadow work and, delve into the depths of, what's going on with himself, I think you guys will have a chance. Okay. Because it sounds to me like you've already done a lot of that shadow work already yourself.
Yeah, a lot of it. And I feel what you're saying is accurate. He does want to. I can feel it. I can feel he wants to. But he's just struggling so so greatly with it. He desperately wants to. I can feel it. I really can.
Yeah, because I do feel that he truly loves you. I do get that. I think he does truly love you. Otherwise, he would have been gone a long time ago. So. But I don't know why. I just get this feeling that he's struggling. Does he suffer from depression? What's going on with him?
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he suffers from depression. He's got a lot of anger inside of him. He just doesn't really know what's up and down and which way lately. He will outright say he doesn't understand why he feels these things. He doesn't understand why he doesn't understand things like everybody else. He just doesn't get it. He doesn't understand emotions very well. He wants to, but he just doesn't. And I think that's where our conflicts are, because he doesn't understand emotion, and I'm so in touch with it all. And I move forward, and I heal, and I keep moving on my path, whereas he's sort of going, I don't really know what to do. I want to, but I don't, and I want to research, but I don't put in the effort, and do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I understand, because you're busy working on your stuff. You can't be working on his, so so I think part of this shutdown quality that he has came from all those lifetimes working for the dark. He saw some terrible things, and if he would have allowed himself to have emotions around it, it would have killed him. Okay, so it was almost like he had to shut down all empathy, all these feelings, or compassionate feelings that he had, in order to survive. Because he worked for the Empire. So but I think deep down inside, there's still that beautiful Lyran soul that you fell in love with. Otherwise, you guys wouldn't have gotten together. Okay, but I think he's going to have to really do some deep shadow work around it, and it's going to be kind of scary. I mean, it's not. I mean, you know as well as I do. It's not easy, to do that kind of work.
No, and I think that's what's stopping him, to be honest, because it's not easy.
No, it isn't. Yeah, it's definitely not. As far as your consequent lifetimes, when you were incarnated in Mintanka, you were able to see the unification of Orion. It must have been a big celebration when that happened, because Orion has been under duality consciousness or duality conflict for millions of years. Okay. So I think when Orion shifted to the light, it was a big achievement, a very big achievement. I think part of your mission here on this planet is to do the same thing for planet Earth. Okay.
I feel like that's very accurate.
Okay. So I feel that way too. That's why I think a lot of Orion souls have ended up on Earth, because it was kind of like a way of paying it forward. There was other star races that helped them achieve, peace and unity on their system. So now they want to do it for Earth, because they know what it feels like to be enslaved, and they know what it feels like to have, their family members being taken from them, for human trafficking. It was horrible in Orion, at times. So they don't want to see Earth humans go through that. And Earth humans are going through that. In some places, human trafficking is alive and well on Earth, So that's just one of many issues we have on Earth. But they just feel that, we got to help our Earth, our Earth brothers and sisters, to achieve, the same freedom that we now have. Okay. So you're here to be a champion for the truth and freedom.
Well, that makes a lot of sense, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Wonder if maybe me wanting to do acting as well, because what stopped me was the whole famous thing. I never wanted to be famous, but Hallie sort of opened my eyes to the fact that to make big moves and to make a lot of changes like I feel the need to do. I don't know exactly how or what yet, but I feel the need. She thinks that I'm supposed to be famous. I'm supposed to have mass following so I can do what I'm here to do.
Absolutely. Well, there was a reason why you were born a Leo, okay?
Right.
I'm a Leo myself, so and I'm facing the same thing you are. I think for you, getting back to you, I think part of what you're going to do is change the acting industry from the inside out, okay? Because right now it's very corrupt, and I think that's why you, yeah.
Oh, the fact that you just said that has floored me. In the last couple of days, I've only just been saying this. I said I've actually been talking to a girlfriend, Anne Hallie, and I've said I think I'm supposed to change this industry. That's what I've been saying recently.
Oh no, I think you will. I mean, if anybody can change corruption, it's an Orion soul. Because you guys went through all this stuff. So nothing shocks you. Now, if it was a Pleiadian soul, I would say, okay, you might be getting in over your head a little bit, because you guys didn't deal with the stuff in the Pleiades. But in Orion, you guys saw the worst of the worst, okay? It was like, so you got, pedophiles and, weirdos and perverts, in acting, the acting industry. That's like nothing to an Orion soul. You guys dealt with that and more so. So,
yeah.
And somehow, I don't know what it is about you and your soul, but even though you did, all the, the double agent stuff, in Orion, you always managed to keep your energy pure. I don't know. It's kind of like, and I see you doing that even in the acting industry here on Earth, where I don't think you're going to get corrupted. Okay.
No, I don't think I can be.
Yeah, because I think you'll see through it. I think you'll, if somebody comes up to you with some shady deal, you're going to be like, get away from me. I don't even want to talk to you, And I don't think you even care if it affects your career. It's just like, and I think somehow you're protected as well. I think you have a lot of protection by the Lyra and Elohim and the angelic groups and the higher dimensional beings that are your guides. So I don't think
very protected. I do.
Yeah, I think no matter what you run up against, you're gonna be like, you know what? I'm divinely protected. These guys can't do anything to me. They'll try, but it's going to come like you. I don't know what they say, like they'll throw something at you, and they'll kind of like bounce off of you, because it won't stick, So yeah, I do see that with you. That I think no matter what happens, but I think most of it's going to be positive. So I don't want to paint a dreary picture, okay? Because I think by the time that you get your footing into the acting field, I think there'll be a lot of changes that are already going to be happening. Okay, you're just going to be carrying out those changes. Now, there was a reason why you were born in '92. Okay, because you're a third wave volunteer, so you're here to build new systems. Okay, so you're here to make changes, to the old and then build the new.
Right.
Okay, so I do think you are on the path of working your mission.
Interesting. That's really good to know.
Yeah, no, I think you're on that path. It's just like it was in Orion. It's going to take you through some really interesting directions where sometimes it's going to seem like I don't even know what it is I'm doing. It's like almost like you're guided, but you don't understand what you're being guided to.
that's exactly what I'm feeling now.
Yeah.
Before this is why I'm here, because I'm going, everything feels right. As soon as I got the S, my mind went, go act, quit your job, go do that. That felt right, and it worked. Everything suddenly became really good in my life. I was getting the work. It was all happening very smoothly.
Yeah.
And then I have moments where I go, is it though? What? Maybe not, you know. And you're exactly right.
Oh yeah, no, I think you have some powerful guides. Okay, I mean you got some. I mean, for you to survive all those years in Orion, you must have had some really powerful guides. Okay, I think you're a Leo, so you're strong. You know, you're a very strong individual. Okay, so I think, even though it may seem like, maybe I'm just floundering, I don't think you really are. I think you're being guided to something bigger, but it's going to take some interesting twists and turns, and you're going to be questioning it. Okay, you're going to be like, what does this all mean? And your guides are saying not to question the process, just flow with it.
Very interesting. Wow.
Yeah, so I think this is going to be an interesting year for you.
Yeah, I do too, to be honest. And I've actually been feeling that as well. I said this coming year is going to be very, very, very interesting. I'm curious to see what happens.
It's going to be a pivotal year, I think, for a lot of us, where there's going to be, necessary changes. Some of us, like you and me, are going to be working on improving our health, so that's something, I'm facing as well. And I think that'll be probably our focus for the first part of the year, okay? And then the second part of the year, once we're starting to feel better, we're going to be focusing on, working our mission.
Interesting. Yep.
Yeah. So do you feel like your MS is pretty much managed, or is there still components of it that are still maybe needs a little work?
I think that the MS side of things is quite good. It's more so the body side of it now. Now that my body's sort of through what it's gone through, my muscles don't work in certain ways anymore, and I still have some drama that sort of bubbles up slightly. Although that is sort of the case, and probably will be forever, battling muscle issues and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think the MS is under control. It's now more so, and what I've actually been doing since the beginning of this year, and I've got still a lot booked for the next couple of months. It's me now fixing the damage that's done.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah.
So that's where I'm at right now. Although I've got my struggles, it's not necessarily the MS. It's just what the MS did.
Has deteriorated in your body. Gotcha.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So now it's more so about getting my muscles working properly again, building up my energy supply again. So that's kind of thing where I'm going, okay, the worst is done. I've been through. I managed. I'm okay. I'm here. I'm good. And now it's like, okay, well, now that I feel okay, my body doesn't.
Yeah.
And so it's the repair now.
Yeah, gotcha. So it sounds like you're in the same kind of similar situation I'm in. Where.
Okay. If you don't mind me asking, that I'm actually going to really change people's lives and perspectives, and I don't know how yet. But I really...
It might be the projects that you'll be choosing that maybe you might help to create, maybe some shows or some projects that are more inspirational, that are not so negative, that is going to inspire people, and you'll be acting in them, and maybe you'll even be directing them, I mean, there's that possibility too. So I find that a lot of shows that they show like on TV and movies are very negative.
Yeah. It's funny. It's very funny that you say this, because that's my logic is that once I have a little bit more of a name for myself, whenever the time comes, almost immediately, I'm going to be pushing out my own work, my own writing in my own scripts, and it's just it will change people's perspective. It's going to change the way people see certain things. But to do that, I do need to have a little bit of a name for myself.
Absolutely. So you're going to have to be in the trenches for a while. You know what I'm saying?
I've got to go.
Yeah. So you got to. Yeah. So you got to work within the system to change the system.
Yes. Yes. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes.
I actually do believe that, and I have believed that for quite a while. I've kind of just. The way I've been explaining it is I have to go in for battle. I've got to get through what I've got to get through to get to here, where I'm going to then actually make the differences.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But I actually see you directing and producing, some more positive content. That is going to be more spiritually oriented. More inspirational work. That's going to have a completely different feel than the stories that you see right now, in the movies. Yeah. So.
Yeah. That's exactly that's what I hope. In my heart, that's what I want to achieve.
Yeah. No, I see you achieving it. I mean, I think I see, higher probability that you'll be achieving that. It might take a few years, but, you'll definitely be there, and probably even sooner than you expect. So, yeah.
Sure. I think I have. I think I sort of just wanted to really know. One, only because I can't work it out myself, whether I'm an indigo, crystal, or rainbow child, and also my spirit animal. They're things that even Hallie and I are stuck on those ones.
Yeah, the whole indigo thing is really confusing. I still sometimes have a hard time figuring it out too, but my understanding is that the indigos were people that were born in the 70s and 80s. So they were the second wave volunteers. You and Holly are more crystals and rainbows. Okay, so you guys are more.
I kind of feel like I actually changed, which is really bizarre.
Yeah.
I feel like I've been crystal for quite some time, but lately, to do with rainbow is coming into play, and I don't know. It could be.
Yeah, those are kind of interchangeable. I still haven't figured out the delineation between crystal and rainbow that much. I think the crystal children came before, and the rainbows are coming in now. But I can't really. I think it's so interchangeable with the third wave that I think you can be a crystal and then evolve to a rainbow. Okay. Yeah.
Sure.
The rainbow people are the ones who are coming in with all their chakras open. I mean, they have all their gifts online. Okay, so so before you were probably a crystal, but you're evolving into rainbow. Okay.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, do you know what my spirit animal might be?
Oh wow, I have to check the records and your guides. Let me check. Okay, they're saying you have a couple of them.
What? Sorry.
A couple of spirit animals. One's the cat. Okay.
Cat? Interesting.
Which is related to, I think, your lifetimes in Lyra. Okay.
Yeah.
And then the other one is the eagle.
Eagle. Okay. Wow. That's very interesting.
Yeah. So the eagle is also a champion for freedom.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Very, very interesting.
Okay. Unfortunately, I do have to close because I do have a reading after yours, but I hope this. Yes, but let me do a little closing prayer just to shut down the records.
Of course.
So I would like to thank the masters, teachers, and loved ones for their love and compassion. I would like to thank the lords of the Akashic records for their point of view. And I would like to thank the Holy Spirit of Light for all knowledge and healing. The records are not closed, amen. The records are not closed, amen. The records are not closed, amen. Your energy goes with you and my energy stays with me.